Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Shorty September, a much neglected BookTube event on my part, where we concentrate on very short books in our collections or on library shelves, things that are, I think Shorty September says 200 to 250 pages, no more than that. I've been trying to concentrate on things that are much shorter than that, and I have been sticking only with rereads. I'm not looking for these things. I'm not even reading. I don't think that any book that short is on my work-related reading schedule for the rest of this event. There's some shorter books coming out later in the year, but not for Shorty September. So I've been concentrating on rereading. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun that I've not been sharing. I've done a lot more Shorty September reading than I have made videos for, like all the other September BookTube events that I'm part of, that I'm wholeheartedly encouraging, and yet here I am neglecting them. But September month-related events are different. You don't want to waste them, right? There's only so many days in the month. And Shorty September is easy to do. I'm adding short works to my nightly reading every single day. And I did last night, in hopes that I would be able to make my usual barrage of videos today. It looks like that's going to be possible. So I reread an old favorite, 150 pages. I reread Louise Welch's book, Tamburlaine Must Die, with this great cover. It's a tiny little historical novel from the 1990s, 2004, that I just love. It's all about Christopher Marlowe, of course, as you could tell from the title. Only here, someone is scandalizing the city. Someone is scandalizing London by making all sorts of seditious, heretical posts and public pronouncements and whatnot, under the name of Tamburlaine, signed Tamburlaine, which is naturally throwing a lot of suspicion on Christopher Marlowe, who's not the one doing it. He has plenty of heretical ideas of his own, but he's not the one doing this, and he doesn't know what to do about the fact that this is happening, and he needs to find out who this Tamburlaine is to get them to stop drawing the Privy Council's negative attention to him. This book is raunchy. It starts off right away. The opening scene shows us how Marlowe earns his keep with Queen Elizabeth's spy master, and it just goes on from there. It's also violent towards the end, but I thought it was extremely good, and every time I read it, it really holds up. Naturally, the part of me that loves to play around with the Shakespeare authorship controversy wants to point out that all the stuff that I have just said about Marlowe is better documented. Even though this is a flight of 150 pages of fantasy, all of that stuff is better documented than anything that's documented about William Shakespeare. But fortunately, this thing is not weighty at all. It's terrifically fast-paced and raw and involving. Raw is really the word that I think of when I think of this book. I don't know that it's really a three-dimensional portrait of Marlowe. There's lots and lots of Marlowe fiction out there, and I've seen better portraits of Marlowe the man, who can be a little bit elusive to a lot of biographers because they aren't willing to really examine his work. There's a lot of biography in the work. You can really finish out the portrait of Marlowe if you look at the work. But the work is sometimes recondite, and not a lot of people want to do that. So I don't know if Welch did that or not, but this, for instance, is not as satisfying a biographical fictional portrait of Marlowe as probably the two most famous Marlowe novels, Dead Man in Deptford by Anthony Burgess, which is very much impressed with its own wordplay to the point where it almost eclipses Marlowe, as it almost eclipses a lot of Burgess' subjects, or Entered from the Sun by George Garrett, which is great. This is not, I don't think this is really in the caliber of those two. I still think that there is, every time I reread this thing, I think the same thing. Probably I've said it in videos. This is not the first time that I've recommended this book to you. It'll take an hour to read, and you'll really enjoy it. Might even move you to read some Marlowe, which is always a good thing. But every time I read this thing, I always think, where is the 800-page novel about Marlowe, the great novel about Marlowe? There are two murder mystery series that have starred him. One of them was particularly good, but an ongoing murder mystery series is going to be full of gimmicks that don't have anything to do with the main character. unfortunately. Which is why I always prefer when ongoing murder mystery series, especially historical ones, have made up main characters, like the Shard Lake books. Better that than Marlowe constantly sniffing out mysteries. But a huge book. I guess I'm currently very slowly reading Bring Up the Bodies, and that naturally makes me wish that every historical character had a great fictional treatment. They don't all. Most of them don't. So, and Marlowe, I don't think does. The closest that he gets, I think, is Entered from the Sun. But this is really good as well. Really raw, really sharp, uh, unexpected. All sorts of unexpected turns in here. So as a Shorty September recommendation, certainly this is one that I've recommended many times before on this channel. So I'm gonna wrap this up. A nice short video for a Shorty September entry, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.